Hey, what's up, guys? I have an interesting question on the Smartsheet community today. We have Kelly Kenny who has some thoughts about file library. It's a fairly new solution Smartsheet released. I'm really not sure when they released it, but really it begins kind of where we're all sort of questioning what do we do with workspaces and how do we use them in terms of if there's a one-to-one relationship with file library. So stay tuned for the video. I'm going to try my best to sort of dive into this because I'm sort of new to file library as well. I think we can all learn together and look forward to talking with you. Thank you, Kelly, for posting the post on the community board, and hopefully this helps solve your problem. All right. So before file library, we set up our workspaces by department. For example, our graphics and merchandising department work together so the folders that belong to all of merch and all of graphic teams are in one workspace. Now that we have file library, this doesn't really make sense if I want to use it, for example, a library of files the graphics team needs, as I would want it to be exclusive to them, currently using sheet level attachments. Makes sense? So if it makes sense to me to move the graphics team to their own workspace to utilize this function, but for our merch team, I'd love to use the file library for ideation, meeting prep, etc. So I need to move sections out of merch team workspace so file library would make more sense as it could easily get overfilled with files that are not needed in, for example, the ideation space. My wish would be that they can be at least a folder level within a workspace. Has anyone else had these thoughts about file library? While sharing a workspace makes sense at my work, so everyone can easily be shared to anything new, and if I start creating new workspaces, might get a little confusing. Not sure if it's worth it. All right, so I actually am not that experienced with file library, and I think this is a really great opportunity for for us to learn together. So shout out to you, Kelly, for putting this out in the community. This is going to be kind of an exciting time to dive into the new features of file library. I know before it was collections, we've got file library, we've got sheet attachments. So this is going to be really great. And also shout out to Smartsheet for giving us some cool new features. So that's pretty cool. But let's get into it. I'll share my screen and we'll start strategizing. One thing I can tell you about collaboration, sharing, role-based access control, all of those fancy things that we try to do to make sure teams have everything they need and nothing they don't need, is that sometimes it's tricky to get it just right. But I think we can figure this one out together. All right, so I'm over here in some little test environment within Smartsheet, and I have file library open. So if you go into your workspace, you've got the semi-new new workspace panel. Um, Inside that workspace panel, you have file library and collections, right? So I guess we still have collections. Now we have file library. Really cool. So when we go into file library, this really looks a lot like proofs. And if you're familiar with Smartsheet proofs, it has quite a bit of features for collaboration over documents. That's really what we like to see. One of my favorite parts about Smartsheet is they cut out all the nonsense. They keep it simple and they keep it effective so that we're getting the best work tools that we need without a whole lot of kind of extra fluff in there. But what I'll say about file library is it definitely looks like file library is a one-to-one relationship with workspaces. So if you have um, one workspace, then you're going to have one file library. Now, when we go back over, let's go back over to Kelly's question and see if we can kind of create some ideas and get something together for this. As I'm diving through this, it just sounds like, um, in a way, like the graphics team and merchandising team are having to be divorced because there's only that one-to-one relationship between file library and workspaces. And I kind of run into this all the time as well. Um, what I can say is sometimes within Smartsheet, you can create purpose based workspaces where, for example, with Kelly, you'd have like ideation, meeting prep workspaces for that kind of stuff. where the whole purpose of it is just file library. But as she said, it gets really confusing, and I would agree with her on that. Sometimes with collaboration, it's a little bit of both. So you might have a sheet in there, and really maybe that's sort of the best of both worlds. I think there's some features with file library that we should dive into that would really help Kelly kind of make her solution selection. All right, so back over here, what we notice. So what does file library do? Let's open this up. All right, file library overview. Workspaces. File library serves as the central hub for storing, searching, and collaborating on files that are directly uploaded to the library, such as documents, presentations, images, and videos. So um, there we go. Couple limitations for those who have not used File Library before. It's not supported in Smartsheet Mobile, Smartsheet Gov, or Smartsheet EU. Um, those are kind of like little sub Smartsheet environments. They have their own little niche sort of peculiarities. We won't go into that, but there's different requirements that Smartsheet Gov might have. So if you ever see that inside of Smartsheet help documents, that's what they're referring to. The next thing is no manual way to subscribe, unsubscribe to conversation threads. Makes sense. No attaching items to comments. Got it. That's interesting. Files aren't accessible via sheets, reports, or dashboards. Okay. Sheet content doesn't show up in the file library. Makes sense. Users can't access the file library in brand folder. I've never really used brand folder. I've used most of Smartsheets, everything from resource management, anything inside of the Smartsheet Advanced, but brand folder is really not something I've played with. So, but one of the things that I know about brand folder is that it is very good, is that it's very good for um, marketing, really. A lot of those marketing things, that's really what I think brand folder was designed for. So if brand folder is an option, Kelly, I would definitely look into that because the whole purpose and intent behind brand folder is some of that those features. But if we're just looking for collaboration, if we're just looking for that collaboration, then we could really um, look into file library. So some of those are the features there. Now let's pop back over to Smartsheet, um, and let's try to add a file in here. So I'm gonna just upload a file. Give me a second here. All right, I have like a little video title PDF uploaded in here from one of the other videos that I was doing. So a little bit of Chat GPT descriptions for that video description. I actually didn't end up using that description, so um, just in case you guys were curious. But let's take a look at what this thing can do. So opening up this UI, my first look at the UI that Smartsheet's put together for file library is very good. I really like this. I like being able to move around in the document. That's nice. It's very simple, and it seems to be a little bit better, really, to me than using Smartsheet proofs. I really like the UI. I like the different versions. We can add different versions in there, so that's pretty neat. We can share the version, so that's pretty cool. That's really nice, actually. That's a pretty good uh, format. Let's see. We can add comments. There's a little comment there. Um, Comment number 3. Very nice. Let's say, what is these? Dashed rectangle, huh? So my biggest critique of this thing is it doesn't appear clear to me that we are able to lock it in place. So we can add our comments, but then when we try to do this, it seems to be like really interfered. And maybe there's a way to like right click or something and hold it steady. But as of now, I'm not really seeing a way to hold it steady. So that's one thing you might want to consider. So it's kind of like proofs, but I think proofs does a better job holding the document steady. As you can see, that's not the most helpful without it locking in place. There needs to be a locking mechanism. There. I wonder. Nope. All right, so there's my thoughts on it. It's a pretty good tool. It needs some work. We've really got to be able to lock that in place so that we can draw shapes around it without having any issues. I'm sure we can kind of get used to it, but it's not full and complete yet. Okay, there's my quick little thoughts of the solution. Um, Now, I'm curious to know what the sharing is. So I wonder if what happens if I just share this only, and if I share this with myself, what'll happen. So we'll pop over there in that other account and see what it looks like on my end there. All right, so I'm on that other account. As you can see, I've got my other name and username in there. I can collaborate on this file. So far, so good. Gonna click around and then I'll just show you in video kind of what my thoughts are being a shared person to this file. All right, so I've kind of played around with it. It doesn't appear clear to me nor intuitive how to access this file once you're shared to it, other than through that original notification. I'm sure I can like copy the version link and store it somewhere, but that's not the kind of collaboration we're really looking for. So my recommendation is to axe that idea in terms of just sharing that file in particular. Um, and of course, now if we have access to the workspace, it kind of rewrites the problem. So we're back to square one in terms of how are we going to help Kelly here. All right, let's take a look at this video. Maybe the video has some solutions for us.
Let's say you're running a social media campaign. You've got images, videos, ads, and approvals that need to stay in sync across your team. File Library is your central place to upload and manage files. Tag them, comment, start approvals, and track versions as your campaign evolves. Let's start by finding File Library. Select your campaign roadmap sheet, located inside your social media campaign workspace. In the Workspace panel, you'll see File Library listed. This is where you'll manage your campaign files. One quick note, what you can do in the file library depends on your workspace sharing permissions. If you can edit or manage the workspace, you can do more with files here. Adding files is simple. Just select Upload.
Yeah, it really looks like that permission is solely kind of geared for workspace sharing. So if you don't have workspace sharing, you're not going to be able to sort of divorce file library sharing from the workspace sharing.
So you can bring in everything you need for your project all at once. Once your files are uploaded, you can rename them by selecting them in the grid to keep everything clear and easy to manage for your team. If you're working with a multi-page document, you can also zoom in and out and scroll through the pages right inside File Library. Tags are a great way to organize your campaign files and make them easy to find later. To add a tag, select Details and enter your tags in the Tags field. You can type in different social media platforms or phases of your campaign. You can also tag multiple files at once. Just select multiple files, then Tags in the toolbar, and apply your tags in bulk using the panel on the right. When it comes to finding files later, you've got plenty of options. You can use Search to look for files, not just by name, but also by text inside documents.
That's pretty cool.
You can also use filters to narrow things down by file type, tags, upload date, or even sort files by name or upload date. Now let's talk about collaboration. You can add annotations to images, PDFs, and videos right inside the file library. Inside the file, use the comment tool to draw or @mention teammates to bring them into the conversation. For example, tagging your designer to review an ad before it goes live. Versioning is especially helpful after you have received feedback on a file and you are ready to upload a new version that incorporates those changes. Let's say your designer just updated the contrast based on your comment. They could open the file, select the versioning menu, and upload the updated version. Smartsheet will track all previous versions, along with tags, annotations, and comments, so you always have a full history of what's changed and why. When you're ready to share files, you can share permissions on an individual file or the whole workspace. Inside the file, select Share, choose your sharing options, and distribute. Alternatively, you can grab a link to the file and share it with your team. If the recipients don't already have access, Smartsheet will prompt them to request it. If you need to download files, you can select up to 1,000 files and download them all at once, which is great for archiving or sharing files offline. So, are you ready to get started using File Library? Check it out today or learn more in the Smartsheet Help Center. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. One of the benefits of version control is keeping it in the cloud so that everyone has the same file. So if you download it, uh, you might not have the most updated file. So there's that component, but I get the sentiment behind it. So um, let's talk about what the best options are for Kelly here. Now, one of the things that I'll say about file library is it's a really like neat tool. I mean, we can share files in the file library, but it's almost like the overarching solution for the entire workspace. Now, workspaces don't necessarily have to be per department. So here's what I'd say for Kelly's instance, where there is the rule breaker, right? Where you've got marketing and say you've got graphics or merchandise and you have graphics and they're sort of in their own together department. It would make sense maybe to call it like based on functionality or based on task or based on initiative, and then create a workspace for the initiatives, and then share the people that are necessary for that workspace, so that it's kind of divorced from the sort of the rules within the department. One of the neat ways that you could do this is through groups. So you could create a group for, say, planning, or you could create a group um, for let's say ideation, meeting prep. You could create a group for or a group for each one of those, and then share those to those workspaces. That's one way to do it. Kind of creates a little bit of a redundancy there. But my recommendation is whenever we sort of divorce departments in that way based on use case and need, is to go to the next level within the organization's hierarchy, right? So just as you would say, like you're all part of the merch department, but there's project A, B, C, where not all of merch would need to be a part of project A. So also maybe not all of merch needs to be part of ideation, meeting prep, etc. And so you just got to get creative with that. There's some cool diagramming tools you can use like Visio. You can use Canva. If you're in graphics, I'm sure you use a little bit of Canva maybe. And you can kind of create some diagrams to show like using rectangles or however you want to get really creative on how these workspace sharings would be sort of distributed. And then why don't you share that file in file library? So really, I guess my answer to this question is to kind of divorce from the idea of the department if you're able and then use file library to kind of have different sort of functions based on ideation, meeting prep, etc. And then really you could just create a workspace solely for the use of file library and maybe just a sheet or two. While it does get complicated, a little bit complex, if you collaborate with your team, let them know what's going on, and file library is pretty important to you for those purposes. I'd say it's worth it. So that's my recommendation. Hope it helped, Kelly. Good luck smart sheeting.